Find all the real zeros of the polynomial. Use the quadratic formula if necessary. The first thing that we need to do is find all of the possible factors for the constant term at the end minus 2. And those factors would be plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2. Then we will find all of the possible factors of the leading coefficient, positive 9. Those factors would be plus or minus 1, plus or minus 3, and plus or minus 9. Now we will find all of the possible rational roots for this polynomial by finding all of the possible ratios p over q. So this would give us plus or minus 1, plus or minus 1/3, plus or minus 1/9, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 2/3, and plus or minus 2/9. We should then begin to perform a synthetic division with one of these roots until we find one that works. One thing that we can do in order to facilitate this process is to look at the graph. We are looking for the x-coordinates of these x-intercepts. We can eliminate some of these possible roots by looking at this graph. We can see that the graph does not pass through positive 1, nor does it pass through negative 1 on the x-axis. So we know that plus or minus 1 will not be a root. We can see that it does not pass through plus or minus 1/3. We can see that it does not pass through plus or minus 2. Now we need to think about these other roots, plus or minus 1/9, plus or minus 2/3, and plus or minus 2/9. It appears that this root could possibly be minus 1/9. So we might begin by performing a synthetic division with minus 1/9. So we'll write the coefficients out to the right, leave a space, and draw a line. Now we'll bring the 9 underneath. Now multiply. Minus 1/9 times 9 gives us negative 1. Negative 17 plus negative 1 gives us negative 18. Negative 1/9 times negative 18 gives us positive 2. Negative 20 plus 2 is negative 18. Negative 1/9 times negative 18 gives us positive 2. And when we add, we get a 0 in this last position. So we know that we have found a root. The remaining coefficients give us 9x squared minus 18x minus 18 as a factor of p of x. We can set this equal to 0 to find these other two roots. We could begin by factoring a 9 from each term. So we would have 9 times x squared minus 2x minus 2 equals 0. And when we divide both sides by 9, we still have 0 on the right. So really what we need to factor is x squared minus 2x minus 2 equal to 0. We can use the quadratic formula, or we could complete the square. I think I will choose to complete the square. So we will begin by moving the 2 over to the right, the constant 2. Now we will take our coefficient on x, which is minus 2. We will divide that by 2 and square it. That will be minus 1 squared, which will give us positive 1. We will add that to both sides of the equation. Now we have x minus 1 squared, when we factor the left, equal to 3. We can use the square root property to take the square root of both sides, but we have to remember to apply the plus or minus on the right. Now we have x minus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of 3. Adding 1 to both sides, we have x equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 3. So we have found our three roots. They are x equal to 1 plus the square root of 3, x equal to 1 minus the square root of 3, and x equal to minus 1/9.